Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank CPOPC and Optimum for inviting me to speak in this webinar, because I was a bit surprised to be invited, because this zero emission was just, that time was about a week ago, and I don't know what is my government program and policy on it, but at least I did it. So next slide, please. The content of my presentation today, I put the definition of what net zero emission is, and effect of palm oil, and also absorption of carbon dioxide by palm oil, and also way forward for the palm oil production. And next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, this is my organization that we've been delegation. Okay, this is what Dr. Shiron and Mr. Thomas Kiever was talking about, that net zero emission is the emission that we produce that have to be equal than the emission we have been taken out from the atmosphere, like a scale. If we want to get those scales back into balance, that means we have to take more greenhouse gas emission out of the atmosphere. Getting net zero emission means that we still can produce emission, but the process that reduce greenhouse gas emission already in the atmosphere. For example, if this could be things like planting new forests and implanting new technology, and maybe like direct air capture, the more emission that we produce, the more carbon dioxide we need to remove from the atmosphere. Okay, next. So according to the IPCC, global net human cost emission of carbon dioxide would need to fall about 45% from around 2050. This means that any remaining emission would need to be balanced by removing CO2 from the air. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a look at what happened to the man-made emission, man-activity-made emission in Indonesia related to palm oil. Indonesians started opening new palm oil plantation in 1980, and it goes up after 2010, and high and low, sometimes even minus. But in 2018, we reduced the using of the expansion rate of the palm oil use. Deforestation to a low limit, which is to 77.668, and reduced to 177.620. Okay, this is also cause higher production, although the expansion rate is low. So we start already reducing emission by reducing land use change. Okay, next slide, please. This is the deforestation rate in 2018. It's going down, and 2019 to 2022, it's also going down much lower. It's followed by the going down of the use of the forest for oil palm expansion rate. Okay, next. You know, as we hear almost all the time, everywhere, that palm oil causes deforestation. Palm oil causes, because deforestation rate we in Indonesia also use forest because of we do mining, logging, settlement, and other agricultural activities. It's not only 6 million hectares of annual expansion of land use change to palm oil plantation, 1% to 15% coming from primary and secondary forests, and mostly for expansion happen in shrubland and other land issue like multi-strata farming and annual crops. In 2015, 2018, our annual expansion increased to 1.1 million hectares, where land use change to palm oil only 5% from secondary forest, from shrub, and another land use change. So actually, it is in Indonesia. It's not everywhere is rainforest. We also have shrub. We also have grassland. We also have another type of land, which is deforested land or forest land, like other countries. But in Europe, it's when you talk about palm oil, they said palm oil costs the loss of. Next slide, please. Okay, how about the peatland? Also, 2005, 2005, 1 to 25% is coming from peatland that is in the primary forest, which is 1%, 25% in secondary forest, and shrub in 36%. Most of our peatland are not in the primary forest, but mostly in shrub forest. And 2,000 from primary forest, and 6% from secondary forest, and 39% coming from shrub. So because the definition of peatland and definition of forest in Indonesia and in Europe are different, it is very difficult to match to the definition because we are not the same. We do not use the same definition. It is also have to put attention that Indonesia define peat only if the peat thickness is equal to 50 centimeters, more than 50 centimeters. Next slide, please. So, we can have a look at the forest fire because in 2015 during the hot season we have about 2,600,000 hectares of land that was burned. But now in 2019, I do not have the new data. It's only about 135.7 thousand land that was forest fire. This is getting less and less, actually. Okay, next slide, please. So why is this reduction in Indonesia? There are two reasons why the reduction of forest fire was. The first one is the moratorium evaluation of oil palm plantation licenses and increasing productivity of oil palm plantation, which is the president instruction in 2018. And for everybody have to follow it. And also moratorium granting new permit in improving the governance of primary natural forest and peatland. And that is in 2019. That's why after 2018 and 2020, we can see the result of this new regulation. Thus, less expansion to forest and peat and contributed to less emission and saving forests. The reduction of forest fire support the net zero emission program. Okay, next slide, please. Let's see about oil palm absorption of carbon dioxide. This is the side that we have to see the atmospheric CO2 that absorbed by a plant. I think everybody knows this, but I just want to show it, that the palm oil plant is the same as other plant in the world. It absorbs CO2, it gives oxygen, and it is also, the root also have root respiration. But palm oil have the mechanism of carbon pool, carbon sinks, and carbon stocks. So that's why palm oil have, in major ages, have more carbon stock than the other trees in the forest. Next, please. Next slide. And then backward, please. Now, also where people was asking about peatland. After that, one more side. Yeah, peatland. We have about 2 million hectares of peatland planted by palm oil. We also know that peatland is actually emitting CO2 for the soil and for the root respiration, but the opening of aerobic mechanism of draining peatland, it's resulted more to CO2. The government already issued regulation that no more planted oil palm in peatland since 2018. Move, please. Next slide, please. This is what we can have a look. You know, we have 4 food and feedstock, which is sunflower, rapeseed, soybean, and oil palm. As Tan Sri Yusuf Basiran said, that others have a lot more hectareage than palm oil, and palm oil in Indonesia just started in 1980, like soybean and others start far before us. So we can have a look also in comparison of these 4 food and feedstock that who have the highest emission. Soybean have the highest emission, and then the sunflower, and then rapeseed and oil palm. The oil palm has in their process have the emission of methane, which is in the peatland it is negligible, but in the process of making CPO, we have already made a methane capture to capture methane and make electricity for the process of the industry. So most of the big industry already have methane capture, so it's reduced the amount of methane going into the air. Okay, next please. So, you know, as I said that palm oil action as carbon sink, carbon pool, and carbon stock, it absorbs CO2 from the atmosphere to give carbon, water, and oxygen. Oxygen goes back to the atmosphere. The plant also emits CO2 in the oxygen for their respiration. As a result of carbon pool process, recent studies show that higher estimate of carbon stock in palm oil. This is the research in 2015 and 2020, that the value of carbon stock in 1 hectare of palm oil is about 80 tons per hectare. Kiel also mentioned that the value of palm oil biomass could be as high as 91. Commission decision in 2010, the carbon stock of palm oil is only 60 tons per hectare. I don't know what research they are using, but the difference is quite high. So using the study by Hassana and Louis at the total carbon of palm oil plantation in Indonesia and Malaysia, the total area in Indonesia is 14.8 million hectares. In Malaysia is about 60 million hectare. we assume that 75% of the oil palm are mature. So the carbon saving in the two countries, if we calculate it, it is about 1.5 billion ton, which is quite a lot, you see. But people never think about it, that we have saved 1.5 billion ton of carbon in two countries. Next, please. Next slide, please. Okay. Back one slide. Oil palm is another plant. It's follow the photosynthesis and save carbon and give productivity. However, palm oil treated palm oil receive different treatment or discrimination because it replaces rainforest. In fact, it is not mainly rainforest, but it is disturbed forest, undisturbed forest, shrub. In Indonesia, before 2010, 2018, the use of forest for palm oil is used to plant oil palm plantation. Emission from palm oil is now actively reduced through methane capture. But now we are limiting ourselves. Many people do not know that we have done this since 2018. Next slide, please. Okay, next. Next slide. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia before the Glasgow meeting, a slide back, yeah. Before the Glasgow meeting already issue what we call it long-term strategy for carbon and for climate change, carbon resilience. This is what they try to they make the program as it is in this table. See what we should reach in 2013 to 20 and 2021 to 24 and 2025 to 30, and then also to 2030 if there is any help. So this is all the data that we try to reduce ourselves, to reduce carbon by ourselves and by the help of other countries. Next, please. Next slide. Indonesian government is actively implementing steps to meet the NDC. So this is the baseline target of the NDC with the reduction of 29 to 41% into 130 up to 250. Next, please. Next slide, please. This is we're talking about a general. This is what we're talking about more. You see, what are we going to do in 2030, 2050, and 2060? The area of oil palm plantation now it is about 14.8. Now we only going to increase it to 17.2. Surface of production in 2050 estimated about 37.8 metric ton of CPO. In 2060, only 33.4. Domestic consumption will increase more than 10 million ton. Indonesia have produced 8 million ton biofuel to use locally and also for export. But in 2030, we will produce about 10 million biofuel production, which assumed to reach more than 2 million ton, 20 million ton in 2050. This is why we're producing this biofuel, because we do not want to depend on the fossil fuel import from other countries, but we also want to reduce the greenhouse gas emission. Productivity of palm oil assumed to reach 7 ton per hectare, although it's a bit high, but it is the assumption that we make, and there will be no oil palm plantation in peatland anymore. And this is for other commodity that we are reducing also. And we are reducing we are going to use unproductive land, idle land, degraded land, and peat clearing for large plantation has been stopped. Productivity of annual crop will increase 20% to 40%. Forest loss is reduced by improving yield and storage technology by 20% in 2020 to reach 9% to 50 and 6% in to 2060. Next slide, please. This is what we aim to achieve. That Ministry of Environment and Forestry, they have all this in the book that I said, long-term strategy and carbon climate change resilience, that they are going to reduce the deforestation, reduce especially deforestation, and also reduce waste. This is trying to be low carbon compatible with the program in the book of the SRCCR. Okay, next slide, please. This is the conclusion to what I said. Deforestation in 2018 is significantly lower than before. The expansion of oil palm plantation is reduced. Indonesian government in January 2022 has cancelled business license previously given to oil palm plantation, mining, logging of the total of 0.3 million hectares. This is also will be continued to reduce deforestation more. Government plan to reduce more license that maybe reach what another 3 million hectares. As a plan, or oil palm absorb CO2 and emitted oxygen. Oil palm have three functions related to this: carbon sink, carbon pool, and carbon stock. 1 hectare of palm plantation holds 80 tons of carbon stock. The common issue mentioned any palm oil in negative campaign is land use change. To achieve this net zero emission, land use change must be reduced. Indonesia long-term strategy, the use of abandoned degraded land will be choice in the future. And also we have to remember that oil palm itself as a plant, it have no problem with anything. It is just a plant. The problem that we all facing is the land use change. So people who hate palm oil have to understand that palm oil have nothing to do with the emission, but all the activities by man that cause emission. Next slide, please. While palm oil expansion area is limited, and there will be no more expansion in peatland, consequently, Indonesia must find ways to increase production as the current target to achieve 7 tons in 2050. Maybe extensification or anything else. There will be more regulation coming from European Union or any other market countries. Indonesia currently define forest, peatland, and productivity different than developed countries. This is the point of negotiation, which is always no way out of these two different definitions. Indonesia palm oil industry started actively expanding in 1990. This is much later than soybean, rapeseed, and sunflower industry. We do not produce any CO2 emission before 1990, but now the palm oil industry has put effort to reduce more emission. That means we do not have any choice, but we have to use the abandoned land, degraded land, and non-forest land for the future activity of palm oil. This is to reach the aim of net zero emission. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.